guys, it's your girl ubuhle.benkosiiiiii, and yes, it is True Crime Tuesday. Before we get started with today's video, you know the drill. Kindly subscribe to my channel, press that like button, and comment down below other true crime cases and video ideas that you want me to cover. So I am happy to announce that I'm so happy to announce that this is the beginning of a 6-part series. You heard me. We're going to be doing a 6-part series on one of the most craziest cases I've ever heard about. And it's so crazy because I watched the documentary on Shomax. I would highly advise you to watch it. And I also crafted each of the videos in the same order that the documentary crafted them. Obviously minus the interviews and all of those other things, because the roller coaster, never. So yeah, we're gonna be doing Devilsdorp, and this one is a wild one. This one is a wild one, but you'll see as we go over the different parts. This story is also particularly chilling to me because I went to school in the West Strand and Krugersdorp wasn't too far. So some of the places mentioned here I've passed by before. So it's like really eerie to watch what was happening, especially during that time period, because I was still in primary school. So everything takes place in Krugersdorp or Krugersdorp, but I'm going to call it Krugersdorp. And it is a town in the western side of Johannesburg, specifically called the West Rand. It was popular for mining back in the day, and then as time went on, it developed socio-economic issues, meaning that the rich were very rich and the poor were very poor, and there's not a lot of middle-class people in that area. So, in 2016, a spree of murders happened that shook the community. On the 10th of May 2016, a car was found abandoned outside a primary school. When the police looked inside the boot, there was a man who was wrapped in a plastic bag stuffed in the car. The victim's name was Anthony Schofield, who was a financial advisor that had went missing after a 6 p.m. appointment that he had made. It was clear that he had been strangled. 16,600 Rand was withdrawn from his bank account. Shortly after, on the 26th of May 2016, Calvin McAlpine, who was also a financial advisor, had gone missing after a 6 p.m. appointment. He was also found in the boot of his car wrapped in a plastic bag. His car was found in a crime-ridden area in Krugersdorp, and he had clearly been strangled as well. 1,300 Rand had also been withdrawn from his account. The way the police found out was that his wife had alerted the tracker after not being able to get into contact with him, and they found him and identified him. Now, quick side note, as I was watching the documentary, obviously they were doing interviews of the different victims and the victims' families. But his wife was 7 months pregnant when this had happened. They had recently gotten married and they were literally starting their life together. And she had said that she remembers after they told her that it was him, she was hiding, thinking that if she hid, this was so sad, that if she hid, they wouldn't be able to tell her that it was him. Now, at this point, the two murders had been connected because obviously the MOs were strikingly similar. 4 days, only 4 days after Calvin McAlpine's murder, Haneli Latagan, who was a real estate agent this time, had gone missing. Her vehicle was found outside the Krugersdorp hospital, but surprisingly, her body was not in the car. They had then decided to go through the CCTV cameras of outside the hospital, and they spotted Haneli getting out of her car and being approached by a woman, where this woman walked her and literally they just walked out of the frame of the camera, and after that they do not know where she went. Unfortunately, the next day, school children were passing through a field on their way to school, and there they found Haneli's body. These 3 murders were dubbed the appointment murders, and this was because every single one of the victims had been lured in the guise of having an appointment. This natural lighting is doing me so dirty. Like, why would the sun move now? God will punish you. That's exactly what's gonna happen. God is... Oh! So, now there were 3 murders and no suspects. And the first step that the police had taken was to get the CCTV footage of the ATMs where the monies had been withdrawn. And boom, they got a hit. It was the same faces withdrawing money for all 3 of the murders. They had taken a print out of the pictures of the people in the photos and sent it out, and some had identified the 2 people in the footage as LaRue and Michaela Stein. They were tracked down and found and brought into the police station for facial analysis. Now, Michaela Stein had just graduated from her matric year. She was extremely smart, had gotten 6 distinctions, and her older brother LaRue, who was 20 years old, was just doing a few freelancing jobs around town. They were normal people as much as everyone was concerned. They were photographed in the different positions, like in the ATM footage, and they were positively identified and connected to the appointment murders. So, what were the Stein siblings doing murdering people? Now, when they brought them in, Michaela was extremely stubborn. Literally, she was swearing at the police officers. She was like very adamant that like she's not even about to say anything. And then you have LaRue, who, believe it or not, confessed to all the murders and had said that he acted alone. Which is totally unbelievable, because really, we saw you and your sister. Now let's get into our time machine and travel all the way back to 2012. Just take that and put it in a box, and we're moving to a different part of the story, okay? So the next person who is pertinent to the story, her name is Michaela Valentine. And what blows my mind is that I couldn't have had any more connections to this, but she was from Heidelberg, which is not very far from where I live in Mpumalanga, which is absolutely insane. Yeah. Now, for the duration of this video, I will not be referring to her with her name and her surname, because her surname is like a marital surname. She married. You'll see, but I'm just gonna call her Michaela, and you'll realize why. She was described as a fun, easygoing, charismatic, and carefree person. Unfortunately, when she was 15 years old, she had been R-worded, and she had gotten into drugs and just started living a really bad life. She eventually found her way to church, healed, and felt like she had a calling to be a pastor, so she did. She went to go study to be a pastor. And while her life was going great, she happened to meet a young man named Zach Valentine. They were said to have been a match made in heaven, but were they? His name is spelled Z-A-K, which is pronounced Zach, but I'm not going to be saying Zach the whole video. We're going to call him Zach. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, on the 4th of October 2012, Zach Valentine had come home to find that his wife had been stabbed to death. When he walked into their bedroom, she had sustained 63 stab wounds, and there was blood everywhere. There was even a Bible verse written in blood on the walls. Now, this may not make sense, but this just happened to be the end of another spree of murders, which was dubbed the Satanic murders. I'm sure now you're thinking like, what does this have to do with... You'll see. You'll see. Michaela's death was the end of the spree. So now we're going to travel a little bit back into July of 2012, where the police responded to a call trying to check on someone named Natasha Berger. When they entered into her apartment complex, she was found stabbed on the floor, and she had a paper in her hand. Now you'll see why this paper is so pertinent to the story. And then in the next room, her neighbor, Joy, an elderly woman, might I say, Joy Buenzaya, was also found stabbed. Now, both of these women had been murdered. And when they were doing a search throughout the house, they had found material or study material on Satanism. And this just automatically made the assumption that these were satanically or occult involved murders. Now remember, so it's July, and then August, a pastor was found stabbed to death on his lawn, and soon they put the pieces together that this was also occult related, and he was added to the spree of satanic murders. And then that's August, September, October, Michaela was murdered. I hope this is making sense. So those are the 4 deaths that are under the satanic murder spree. Natasha Berger, Joy Bwanzaya, I haven't said the pastor's name, and Michaela. And in all of these cases, no evidence beside these books of satanic research were found. There was literally no other evidence that this was occultly related. But so just a quick background and side note to help you understand, because another big reason why I do true crime is always the psychology or the thought behind it. And because Krugersdorp was going through such a hard time socially and economically, they're having those issues. One of the biggest thing that mattered to them was belonging or being part of a group or having a support system in their situation. And this made them so much more prone to cults and groups and stuff like that, and gangs. And also because of, I don't want to say lack of education, but curiosity. That's how they got involved in these things. And in that time, Krugersdorp was particularly popular for that. There was a little bit of a satanic panic during that time. And the satanic panic was like throughout the 2000s in Krugersdorp. And this is when people were like heavily into religion and heavily into occult stuff. And that just obviously made cults and Satanism and occult practices more prevalent, because religion was more prevalent, if that makes sense. While I was watching the documentary, it was so funny when people were talking about it, and they were having a satanic panic, because they were like fairies, Harry Potter, Spider-Man, everything was satanic to them, especially during like the 2000s. So it's not a surprise that these murders were dubbed satanic murders because of the study material that was found in their houses. Now, enter into the scene Ria Groenewald. In 2006, Ria had started a ministry called Overcomers Through Christ, and she had dedicated her life and her ministry to teaching and supporting people about the word of the Lord, and also warning them against evil. She was a very loving and caring and passionate person. She always wanted to see people succeed and go on the right path, and the whole people being trapped in Satanism really hurt her. So she decided to enroll in trauma counseling training so that she could help escapers or survivors of the Satanic Church. I just want to say, I will talk about this in someday, but this has nothing to do with the actual Satanic Church. We're just gonna call it satanic ritual abuse. But the Satanic Church, that's a whole controversial. She then became known for helping people who had survived this spiritual abuse, and it was not a shock when a call came in about a woman who had escaped the Satanic Church, and Ria was obviously the most qualified person to deal with this. So after Ria started talking to this particular survivor, this survivor had claimed that she was a 42nd generational witch from the Satanic Church. Now Ria became enthralled and hyper focused on trying to understand the survivor and supporting her. She started withdrawing, essentially. This survivor had also claimed to be the bride of Satan, and she had said because of her high rank in the Satanic Church, she could not break free. She gained or captured Ria's attention by detailing all the abuse and torture she had suffered in the Satanic Church. She was allegedly in trouble, and this relationship between Ria and this particular survivor slowly took up all of Ria's time and consumed her thoughts and actions. She became extremely paranoid, and she also believed that she could save the survivor. The survivor had detailed things of death curses and the fact that the Satanic Church could hear if this dog does not just... She had told Ria about death curses that would happen to them because the survivor was in their space, and how the Satanic Church was always listening through sound waves, and that they were always trying to get her, and this is also what made Ria so determined to help her. Now, you might be wondering what the survivor's name was. Even if you're not, I'm going to tell you now. Her name was Cecilia Stein. Rhea then began presenting a training course, and this course was known as Know Your Enemy. This course was focused on helping survivors of the Satanic Church and the abuse that they had suffered, and also making people more aware of how the Satanic Church was trying to destroy the church and how people could escape that. She used Cecilia's stories as a basis for how people could survive and escape that Satanic Church. Now, another thing was that with religion, especially during this whole Satanic Panic thing, it was more of a we don't want to know about it, we just want to protect ourselves from the devil, so forth, so forth. But now that they had Cecilia right here who was giving them inside information about their enemy, it just it really intrigued a lot of people. A lot of devout Christians were drawn to this training course, including Michaela and Zach Valentine. Another key important character is Miranda Stein. She was a beloved teacher and also part of Rhea's ministry. She was moved by Cecilia's testimony about her abuse in the Satanic Church and became a regular in Rhea's sessions. She brought along her 2 children, LaRue and Marcel Stein. And just a quick side note, Cecilia and Miranda are not related, and Cecilia and those 2 siblings, the boxed siblings, Marcel and LaRue, were not related. Now that you know all of the characters, stay with me, okay? On the 15th of December 2015, so this is in between this is after the Satanic murders and before the appointment murders, Zach Valentine died in a car accident. I'm sure you're thinking, how does this all tie in? Okay guys, that concludes part 1 of our 6-part Devilsdorp series. Please make sure to tune in next week Tuesday for part 2. And I love you guys so much. I'll see you guys. Make sure to subscribe, share this video, like, stalk me on my platforms and all of that. My camera's about to die. Bye.